It's the NVHA 12-0006, our 382nd interview overall. It's October the 6th, 2012, and we're near Anderson, Indiana at the home of Dan Brinduse. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to come and do this interview.
Thank you, thank you.
Let's start off with the basics. What is your full name?
Daniel Brinduse.
Okay, no middle name?
And MI. When I went overseas, I had to say Brinduse, Daniel, and MI. There were no middle initial. So my name is Daniel Brinduse.
Were you named after anybody in the family?
Well, I'm named after the Bible. There's 12 of us kids, 6 boys and 6 girls, and we are all Bible names.
That's good and healthy.
So my name is, in Romanian, is Daniel.
Okay.
And instead of Daniel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the name Brinduse, you say it is Romanian?
It's Romanian, yes.
Okay.
My mother and father and older sister was born in Romania.
Okay.
And Daddy came here in 1910. He walked from Ellis Island to Anderson, Indiana to work in American Steel and Wire. And he walked down the railroad, New York Central Railroad, because he didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And so he worked his way walking down the railroad to Anderson,
I wonder if you
Indiana.
knew Frank Robiton's dad. Frank Robiton's dad worked at American Steel.
Yeah, well,
he was Polish.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of Romanians and Hungarians and Polish and Czechoslovakians that worked at American Steel Wire.
Well, some more vital statistics here. What is your birthday?
15th of July, 1923.
And what was your highest rank in the military?
When the war ended, I was a five stripe, and then I was promoted to lieutenant, and then I was to captain, and then major.
Okay.
And those last 3 was in the Indiana State Guard after the war was over, and I came back. Well, and I ended up as a major, and then when the National Guard came in and took over the state guards, then that's when I was discharged as a major.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, Major Brinduse, where were you born?
Where?
Yes, where?
Here in Anderson, Indiana.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Were you born in one of the hospitals or at home?
No, all the Brinduses were born at home.
Okay. And this was your mom and dad's home as opposed to maybe your grandparents' home?
Yes. Daddy bought this. It was a boarding house, and it was 15 rooms. Oh. And it lived right next to the railroad. Across the railroad is American Steel and Wire and Anderson Knife and Bar, and that was where on Locust Street. That's where we were all born.
Okay. What's the address?
1810. Okay. It was 1808 and 1810 Locust. We had a great big house. We had 2 addresses.
2 addresses?
Yes, and the 1808 was right next to the railroad. Okay. And so we turned that into, during the Depression, Daddy turned it into a coal yard, and the train would park a carload of coal there with 52 tons, and the Brinduse family would get out. We had 3 days to empty it, so we'd work all night, all the kids throwing the coal out of the car.
Well, that'd be quite a...
And we'd hear the train, and we had 3 days to empty it. Mm-hmm. After 3 days, then we had to pay $3.50 demurrage, and so we made sure that we had it all empty when they came.
Well, I'd reckon. Did they let you use any of the coal for your home?
Well, it was our coal yard.
Okay, all right.
So yeah. Right. But then the way Daddy was we saved every penny, and we would go up to the Wellington Mills there at the New York Central Railroad and Central Avenue, and Big Four Railroad, and we would get corn cobs, and we would use corn cobs to start the fire, and then when the rail people would work on the ties. They would load up the used ties, and they would come put on the side track right next to our house, and we'd throw them over, and then we would saw them up, and we'd use that, even though we had a coal yard. Huh. So we had then when and that was American Steel and Wire. Then in 1936, when American Steel and Wire left during the Depression, they moved to Gary, and they renamed it U.S. Steel instead of American Steel and Wire. Now, I don't know what it is this week.
Huh. Yeah.
But that was the beginning of U.S. Steel.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Was Anderson's American Steel and Wire.
Huh. Oh, well, I take it your mother was there when you were born.
Where?
I take it your mother was with you when you were born.
Well, yes, in our house.
Okay. Now,
yes, we were all. Well, yes, and my mother and dad and my oldest sister was born in Romania.
Okay.
Then the other 9 of us were born here in Anderson.
All right. Now, what was your mother's name?
Her name was Vera Popa Brinduse.
Huh.
Brinduse, Romanian.
Yeah. What would you tell folks about her? What was she like?
Well, it was a very large family. Every 2 years, from 1933 to 1949, there was a Brinduse graduated from Anderson High School every 2 years. So we were a very large family,
Yeah.
and none of us ever smoked. We never swore, and we never drank, and we didn't have to be preached not to do it. We were taught that wasn't the thing to do.
You were shown not to do
Yes,
it,
and
not just told.
And, and Daddy and Mother showed us what to do, and that's the way we lived. And here in the First Baptist Church, all of our lives, and they're at 14th and Lincoln, right by the Anderson High School.
Yeah. Was she a quiet woman or an outgoing woman? How would you describe her that way?
Well, all I know is she was Mother.
Yeah.
And Daddy was the first one of the Brinduse family here locally to get Alzheimer's. Then my brother Matt had Alzheimer's. His daughter, one of his daughters died of Alzheimer's. I had a sister that had 5 boys, and two of them. One has died of Alzheimer's, and one is dying now of Alzheimer's. And then my other sister, she lost both of her daughters to Alzheimer's.
Oh, my word.
And she had Alzheimer's. So we are the largest, probably the largest family in the world that we can trace back 7, 8 generations into Romania with Alzheimer's.
Oh, for
so
sakes.
I am a guinea pig for the research for Alzheimer's. Since I do not have the mutation for chromosome 21 or chromosome 16. And so they use me as a guinea pig for any medicines that they're, and I go a couple times a year to IU Medical Center in Indianapolis, and we go through my tests and everything. And now I just turned 89 last July the 15th, and so they want to see how my memory is and see how I'm doing. But I don't have the mutation, so I will never get Alzheimer's from the genetic strain that comes down. Anybody can get Alzheimer's. People think if you're senile, you have Alzheimer's. No. If you have senile dementia, the dementia is the part of Alzheimer's. And you have the tangles in your brain. So I could die maybe of the dementia. But so far I haven't shown any signs of it. I don't have the mutation for the genetic strain. So that's why they use me as a guinea pig at the IU Medical Center.
Well, it's an awful, awful disease, and I sure hope they find a cure for it before much longer.
Well, they've the last one of my last tests was twice now they've taken my spinal fluid, the fluid from and you stop to think of the fluid in your spinal cord. That's the motor oil to your brain.
Yeah.
So that's where they find they can check that to see if there's any tangles or anything. And when you're dying of Alzheimer's, all my family, then they have their brains, several of them there at IU Medical Center in Indianapolis. And in fact, they have taken the last time I went to Romania with one of the research scientists in Romania, and we was able to gather over 20 members of the family and a couple of them were dying of Alzheimer's then. So that was they were able to take all the blood samples from Romania.
Right.
And then when we came back, then they took my blood and my family's blood, my brothers and sisters, their blood, and they put that all in a mouse. And the mouse got Brinduse's Alzheimer's.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
The chromosome 21,
Right.
in a very, very exact spot in that chromosome is where the Brinduses are all have that same spot is a mutation in it.
Huh.
And so they have all this stuff on record, and so they have made mice, and they've sent them all over the world, and they can use these for research. Right. So if they run out of mice, they have it all on record there in our U Medical Center, so they can make more mice.
Wow.
So that's a big plus for our research.
Appreciate you getting involved in that and allowing them to do the research, because that is going to be very important for other people.
Yeah.
Now, you've talked about your dad. What was your father's name?
His name is John.
John.
And my brother's name is John.
Okay.
And so they...
Now, did your dad do anything? Well, you mentioned a coal yard. What other things did he do for a living? And
all his life he worked at the American Steel Wire.
Okay.
When they had the steel mill here in Anderson, Indiana, and then when they moved to Gary, Indiana,
right.
This is about the time that he was beginning to get to lose his senses. Okay. And then he was the first of our family to die of Alzheimer's. He is from 5 brothers in Romania, and of the 5 brothers, 4 of them died of Alzheimer's.
Oh, my word.
So that's all. That's all recorded in history and medical science.
Now, you've talked about your brothers and sisters. Let's go down the line and name each one and give me a little something about each one.
Well, my brother John, he was Flora died when she was in 1935. She was coming home from a Romanian Baptist convention. She arrived here in 1927, and she was killed in an automobile accident in 1935. And then she was going to go back to Romania the following spring and marry this boy that she knew. Right. But then, of course, then she died, and that ended that. But then my brother Matt was very big in Scouts, and brother Joe, he was at Guide Lamp, and my brother John was at Delco Remy, and my sister Annie, she graduated from college at Franklin College. My sister Ruth, she went to Franklin College also. Okay. And I wasn't too good in school, but I ended up working at the post office from 1945 when I got out of the war until about 1978, and then I retired from the post office.
That's a pretty good run.
And I went up to a supervisor, and a supervisor of the carriers and clerks in Anderson Post Office. And before I retired, I was a postmaster at Fairmount, Indiana, where James Dean, the movie star, was from. And so I did advance. I didn't make very good grades in school, but I did advance pretty high. And in the war, I went up to major. And when I got out of the Army, so I made my. I worked in selling shoes in the post office, and that's about it.
Yeah, you sure made up for it afterwards. Mm-hmm. Did you know your grandparents on either side of the family?
No, because they were all in Romania.
Okay.
And now the mother's dad was here for a short time with some of the Romanians. Most of the Romanians went back to Romania. Mm-hmm. Daddy was here. and he bought this boarding house there next to the New York Central Railroad, 15 rooms, and
We can put that on pause.
yeah,
Where's
yeah, could just
Go.
All right. So, have we gone through all the family yet?
Mm-hmm.
I think we went through all the brothers and sisters. What do you remember about growing up in Anderson?
Well, my earliest memories are, I must have been about 5 years old, and I was angry at somebody, and this is my first memory going back as far as I can remember, about 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I got me a big stick and a big bandana, and Daddy says, well, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going back to Romania. That's all I knew. I was going back to Romania. Yeah.
Did you pack a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before you
No,
went?
I just had a big stick with a handkerchief on it, and I think I had a slice of bread or something in there.
I don't know if that thing's going to shut off
It
or
was
not.
dark outside. I remember that.
It'll take about 5 minutes. But
And I had a question too in my mind. During the war, how did your family in Romania fare? Because those weren't the best situation.
No.
Wasn't the best place to be at that time.
Yeah, when the Germans took over Romania,
Right.
and then the Russians took over, and my family that had gone back to Romania, they took the last what we heard was of all the men in our little village,
Right.
and the boys, I like say 18 or 19 years old, they put them all in this barn and they killed them.
Oh.
Whether and I can't remember if it was the Germans that did it or the Russians did it. I'm thinking that this is what the Germans did, and that was so our family was wiped out except all of the men
Wow.
that was still there in Romania.
Those are hard
and
times.
I was able to go back in Romania in about 1990, and I was able to see some of our family that are still there. And
Were they in marked graves, or did they just put them in a mass grave?
well, who knows? They probably just now. I know where some of the cemeteries are where the Brinduse are named.
Right.
And of course, most of them are wooden crosses, and back then, I don't suppose they even were in. They just put them in a box, put them in the ground.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Probably.
I've been back 3 times now to visit my people in Romania.
Did you get downtown very often when you were a boy?
Here in Anderson, yeah, we my brother and I we would walk up to 11th and Meridian, and we would sell Anderson Herald newspapers.
Oh, okay.
And they cost us a penny each, and then we would make 2 cents, and then we'd sell it for 3 cents, so we would make 2 cents. And usually we'd just sell one paper, and then I'd come back and I'd turn the other one in, and then I'd buy one to take home to Mother for a penny. And that was and then years later I had a paper route with the Anderson Herald, and it was 23B.
Yeah.
It was the name of it.
Yeah.
And this is when I was in we were in junior high school. My brother junior high school then, and it was from in Anderson. It was from Arrow Avenue to Rabel Avenue, and from the Midland Railroad that goes through Anderson to 25th Street, and that was that one area that was
Right.
23B, and we we didn't make very much money, and we had 3 grocery stores on the route, and so we would they had Golden Crust donuts, and they had boxes. They had little, containers out there
Right.
where they put the donuts, and so we had an arrangement where these 3, and so instead of collecting our 15 cents a week, then we'd get 3 donuts out of each one of them, and so they knew that we were there,
Yeah.
earlier in the morning, and we got our donuts. So we never collected any money from the grocery stores, because we would eat those donuts. But they were all accounted for. Oh, and I still have a quarter that I got when I collected from a paper route. It was 25 cents a week or whatever it was.
Right.
And it was a lead quarter. You could write with it.
Oh.
And I still have that lead quarter
Really?
someplace in the safe that from the when we had our paper out.
I'll be darned. No, that's a new one.
Heard of lead pennies, but not quarters.
Well, this was a lead quarter,
Lead
and,
quarter.
and I remember we could write with it.
When you were a child, did you have any childhood heroes, baseball players, or someone in the community or the family?
No, we in our sports with our big family, we've had some Romanian families. The boy that would come down and visit us from Indianapolis,
Right.
and they just loved to come down because they says we never saw so many different games in our life as when we'd go down to Brinduse family, because we didn't have any money for toys.
Right.
They made their own toys and they made their own games.
Yeah.
And but that was the way we were, and we had our own games that we invented, and we would back then all the alleys in Anderson were made of cinders,
Right.
and so we'd dig a hole, and we'd cut the top out of a can, and then we'd bury that, and we'd get a golf ball and with a stick, and that's our entertainment. And but we'd make our own, we'd make up our own games, and our friends from Romania, from Indianapolis, this one boy, he says he just loved to come to Anderson because you never saw so many different games in your life as what the Brinduses invented.
Well, there's nothing more powerful than a good imagination.
And our baseballs were rags that we would make a ball, and then we would take black tape, and we would that was our baseballs.
Yeah.
And we'd have a stick, or we'd have a limb, and that was and then that would play games that way.
And you had more fun than a kid with a $1,000
Yeah.
gizmo that did that.
Yeah. And I was of all the kids, it seemed like I must have been in trouble all the time because, to my knowledge, I was the only one that Daddy ever said that he was going to put me in the orphan's home. And so I didn't think I was that bad, but evidently I was, because I was the only one in my family that I knew was he was going to put me in the orphan's home.
That's a good one.
But I lived through it.
Yeah. Where did you go to school?
All of us went to Hazelwood School.
Okay.
And that's when the Hazelwood School was on Madison Avenue, and 20th at 20th and Madison.
Okay.
And then they finally tore that one down, and then they put up the school that they've got now.
Right.
And it's I don't know. I think they sold it to somebody for $1 or something like that.
Huh.
And I think it's empty now. But that's where we. And back then, they would have that have different colored flags out the window. If it was rainy, they'd have a black flag, and they have weather flags.
Huh.
And when I was in the, I remember when I was in kindergarten. So this had to have been then when I was 4 years old and 5 years old.
Right.
And so we lived at 18th and Locust, and the school was at 20th and Madison Avenue, and so and when I was just very first in kindergarten, just worked in the mornings, and so I told the teacher, I said I have to use the toilet. She said okay, so I got up and I walked over to the door and I went home. Which is about a block and a half away. And then somebody was there going out, and so I went home. I was about 4.5, 5 years old, and I went and I used the toilet, and nobody had toilets inside the house back then.
Yeah.
Everybody was in the alley. So I used the toilet and I went back home, and so the next day I told the teacher, I says, I have to use the toilet. She said okay. So I went over there, and there wasn't anybody going out, and I couldn't open the door. It was too heavy. So I went back and I told the teacher, I said, I can't open the door. She said, what door? You just walk across the hall, and that's the boys' restroom. I said, I mean, I couldn't open the door to go home. She said, go home. She didn't know I'd been going home. So I found out that, wow, they had toilets inside the building. That was so rare, because back then nobody had toilets inside the house. They didn't have bathrooms. And I remember our first bathroom, and Daddy made a bathtub out of cement, and you talk about a bad bathtub. You're sitting down on that the one he made himself. And I remember then when Daddy was the first one in Hazelwood that had a regular bathtub with legs on it.
Yeah.
And it was smooth, and it was, they had it in front of the house, there on Locust Street, there in front of the house, and it was in a big crate, and everybody came by putting their hand through that crate to feel how smooth that bathtub was. So Daddy put our first bathroom in. And so that was when I was growing up, and I didn't make very good grades in school, and when I was in high school, let's see, when I was in junior high school, I was sleeping during study hall, and I had my hand. I must have been a freshman because I was taking shorthand. I had my hands on these 3 books, and I dreamed that I was at home, and I was changing the light in this bathroom that Daddy made, so I could reach. The ceiling wasn't very high,
right? And
so I reached up to change the bulb, and I dreamed my hand went up into that socket, and I got shocked, and I jumped up out of and both my hands came up, and books went all the way across the study hall. And it scared this one guy so bad he fell out of his seat. And so I stood up, and I said, I dreamed I got shocked. And the teacher said, you weren't supposed to be sleeping, you're supposed to be studying. So that was one of my early memories of the study halls.
Well, you tell some great stories. Wow. What was Christmas time like in the Brinduse home?
Well,
you didn't have much.
Yes. Well, yeah. We were in Hazelwood, and American Steel Wire there at 16th and Locust, and the building is still there. It was a brick building, and that was where the hospital was. It was where they had a nurse and they had a doctor there. And all the kids in the neighborhood, most everybody worked at for the American Steel and Wire. So that's where we'd go. We'd get our bandages and everything, Yeah. And that was just right down the street. And that was where we would. That's where we wouldn't go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And all of us were born at home, so none of us was born in the hospital.
Yeah.
So that was
Did you do anything special for Christmas?
yes, and okay, and at Christmas time they would always have big oranges and big apples, and they would give us an orange and an apple, and they have a special program from all the kids of the families that worked there.
Okay.
And that was our, and we'd get an apple and an orange each, and it would have a little bag of maybe mixed nuts in it, and that was our treat. So we looked forward whenever our Christmas presents were articles of clothing that Daddy and Mother could buy for us.
Right.
And so I never remember, well, most of our clothing were just I wore what my big brothers handed down to me.
Right.
And this is the way, but we're talking about the 30s, we're talking about the Depression.
All right. Yeah.
But
Depression and a large family. That's a
see,
combination.
nobody knew they was poor,
Right.
but nobody had any money. And Daddy had this coal yard, so we could would go to Dietz and Bakery, and our Omar Bakery there in Anderson.
Oh yeah.
And we'd buy a loaf of bread of decent corntop bread, and it cost 3 cents.
Huh.
And then we would go to Fairview Sanitary Dairy. We'd take a gallon jug, and we would get skim milk, and then but the people knew who we were, and half the time when we'd go there, they would pour whole milk in there because they knew that it was Brinduse's, instead of giving the skim milk. And so for 3 cents we can get a half a gallon of milk, and for 5 cents we'd get a full gallon. So we'd get the for 5 cents they give us a jug of milk, and it was good whole milk. And back then you let the milk set, and then the cream would go to the top, and you could just skim that off, and you would whip it, and that'd be your whipped cream.
Huh.
But that was the Depression, and everybody was poor, and nobody knew it.
Now where was the Fairview Dairy? I don't remember that.
Fairview Sanitary Dairy was at right across from the Anderson High School, just south of there.
Okay.
And there was a railroad track that went right west of that, and then in that area, that was the Fairview Sanitary Dairy.
Okay.
Right there at Fairview and 14th Street.
All right. Yeah, I know where it is.
It had to be about on the high school parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, it would be across the street from the parking lot.
Right, but they had kind of an overflow parking lot that they used to use.
Just
I think it was on
west
that.
of the Baptist church.
Yeah. But there wasn't that wasn't a parking lot then. It was the dairy.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It had to be right.
Yeah. It'd be.
What we know is the parking lot was the dairy.
Well, yeah. The church was at 14th and Lincoln.
Right.
Now this would have been 14th and Fairview.
Right. Okay.
So that would have been right next to the railroad, that came around to go through Anderson.
Oh, do you remember any of your teachers along the way? Were there any teachers that kind of stood out to you?
There's the only one was Miss Wells, and I was in 2nd grade, and I was in love with her. So she was so sweet, and hey, I was the best student she had. I mean, I was really good, and one day this boy across the aisle, he was talking to me. And so he kept talking, and I leaned over and I said, "We're not supposed to be talking." And she turned around and she saw us, and she came back there. She had her paddle, and she took my hand and she hit my hand with that ruler, and I was just crushed.
Yeah.
I said, and I was just telling him that we wasn't supposed to be talking. So we both got paddled on our hand, and years later, she married a dentist.
Yeah.
And she lived at about 29th, but no, about 30th and Columbus Avenue. And so years later, when my brother Joe died, she came to the funeral, and there's Miss Wells. There's Mrs. Schuyler now.
Yeah.
Because she married Dr. Schuyler. And so she was sitting there and with my sister-in-law, with Joe's wife. And so I was telling her about how much I loved her and how she spanked me when I was in second grade. And I said, I was crushed. And she laughed. We had a good laugh over that. But I was trying to be so good.
Well, so where was a good place to take a hot date back then when you were in high school?
Well, you see, when we were growing up, to go to a movie, that's a sin.
Ah, okay.
Because movie houses were sin.
Yeah.
Playing marbles was a sin. We used to have city marble tournaments, and when I was in Hazelwood School, wouldn't anybody beat me in marbles.
Yeah.
And Daddy would check my knuckles when I come home to see if there was dirt in my knuckles. He'd know that I'd been playing marbles. And so consequently, when they had marble tournaments, I could not join in because I wasn't allowed to play marbles.
Ah.
And they used to have beautiful little agates. Boy, those agates, those were so nice. And so there'd be I'd see these guys playing. There'd be a big circle, and there'd be the most prettiest agates you ever saw in the middle of that thing. Well, I'd usually have a hole in the bottom of my shoe, right under my toes, and so I would walk across the ring, and I would step on one of those agates. And I just keep on walking. Now I've got it underneath my toes. It's in my shoe. And they're looking all over for that beautiful agate. Old Dan's walking away with it. It's in his shoe. So,
That
but
I've never heard.
but
Never heard of that one.
I really had some good ones.
Oh, I tell you.
But that was my growing up.
Yeah. So you graduated in 1941
Yes.
from Anderson High School.
Yes.
The only one there.
And I was when I was a junior in high school, we'd gone to the football camp, and I was a student manager, and Sid Alberts he was the other student manager,
Yeah.
and so when it came time for school to start, I was a student manager for 1 year, and Archie Chad was the coach.
Sure.
And one of the school teachers, I won't name the name because it was a famous name,
Yeah.
but his son was in my class, and he wanted to be a student manager. So and I was really crushed.
Yeah.
Archie Chad called me in and he says, "We won't need you for a student manager anymore." And so one of my best friends in my class, he got to be the student manager because his father was one of the big teachers in Anderson High School. So, but I got my A. I couldn't afford to get the one with the sweater.
Right.
So I just bought a gray sweater and sewed it on, and I still have it.
Oh, fair enough. So you graduated high school. The war hadn't started yet.
No.
Did you have any inkling that we would get involved in war?
No. When on Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Yeah, it was 1941. Yeah, and I was with my girlfriend that I married. It was Barbara, my first wife. I was at her house, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and we had eaten, as she and her aunt and uncle, and me, and we heard on the radio that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. Well, nobody that I knew of, I don't know if anybody in Anderson knew where Pearl Harbor was. Right. I mean, we just didn't know.
Right.
And so my friend of mine, Bob Cappinger, we went uptown, and everybody up in Anderson, they was and people from the newspaper. They was interviewing people and everything. Nobody knew about Pearl Harbor, and but that's how we found out where Pearl Harbor was.
What was your immediate reaction? Were you
Well,
angry? Were you scared? Were
well,
you just didn't know what to do?
No, we just didn't really know.
Yeah.
All we knew is that it was Japan that did it,
Yeah.
and that and even though we didn't have a big army or anything like that, everybody that I knew and talked about it, the war was going to wouldn't last over a year, because Japan was just made of shacks. I mean, you know, and all we have to do is just drop some bombs on them, and it's going to burn down.
Yeah.
You know, that was a thinking back then, that it's not going to last very long, because the fact that you know, but that's how we found out what the war is really about.
Right.
And that it just kept going on and on and on, and then they had everything that then Hitler and Mussolini got together, and then they was taking bits of Europe, and then the Japanese, when they attacked Pearl Harbor, then they brought that into the Axis.
Right.
So there was Japan and Mussolini and Adolf Hitler.
Yeah. Now, World War II, it actually started in Europe in '39 when they invaded Poland.
Right. Yes.
Did you?
And that's when Germany was going country after country after country.
Did you think the United States would get involved?
I don't think anybody. I mean, I think everybody just figured that it was going to be too far away.
Yeah. Just
You know,
way over
yeah,
there.
we're going to have to come across the Atlantic. And in fact, I don't know who it was that made this, the B-19 bomber. The wheels on this thing were 12 feet high, 10 to 12 feet high, the wheels on it.
Wow.
It was huge. In fact, no airplane that they have, even nowadays, was bigger than this.
Yeah.
And they only made one. It was the B-19. For then they started making the B-17s and the B-25s, B-26s, and then the fighter planes and everything. But the bombers was B-24s and B-17s,
Right.
and then the 8th Air Force. But the only one we had was this B-19. And before, when the war was winding down, they were trying to get the aluminums and everything,
Right.
and they dismantled that thing so I had gone to Wright Patterson, and I wanted to see the B-19,
Yeah.
and they said it's not here.
Ah.
All we had was pictures of it.
Ah.
But I was that they would destroy.
I know.
Yeah, you know that'd just be like one of Columbus's ships. They needed some boards, and so they just dismantled it.
Yeah, I know.
But it's a shame. I mean, this was a huge thing. You know, you think you got some big planes now, nothing compared to the B-19.
Yeah. We touched on Barbara just a little bit. Your first wife's name was Barbara?
Barbara Jane Shaw.
Shaw, okay. And how'd you meet her?
We were at, she was, her family was, they were not a religious family as far as going to church and everything. And a friend of Barbara's invited her to the First Baptist Church, to young people's meeting, you know.
Right.
And so she came to she came to church with us, and I was a junior, and Barbara was a freshman.
Excuse me.
And then so we had the Baptists had what they call the BYPU, Baptist Young People's Youth Organization.
Right.
Anyhow, so we would go after church. We'd go to different people's houses. And so we were and I met Barbara at after church at the May McClure's house there at Broadway and it was Main, it was Main Street, Broadway,
Yeah.
and Cross Street, and that's where one of the girls, their family, they had a grocery store. They had a store there. Anyhow, we met at their house, and so I was there. And Barbara had come with one of the boys there, and he was Barbara graduated in '43, and I think this boy was also in '43, and so he was the guy that she was with was talking to all the other girls, and Barbara was very shy, and I was very shy, and so I saw her sitting over there. And I thought she was a pretty thing, and I was a junior, she was a freshman, and so I went over and I got to talking to her, and they had some Red Hots in a little bowl,
Right.
and so as bashful as I was throwing Red Hots in her mouth, and so we got to know each other, and the next day when I went to school there at Anderson High School, I was on the second floor. And I was getting something out of my locker before next class. And I turned around, and there she was, right across the hall. Her locker was right across the hall.
Oh.
and so I was smitten by her, and I was not to go out with dates. I mean, I was too bashful for all that.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so I went over there, and I talked to her whenever I'd see her. And so I asked her for a pencil, and so after about a month, I asked her for a pencil. So she gave me a real pretty bluish crystallized pencil that she got at Decker's, and it had a B on it for Barbara, and so she gave that to me, and so I. After a couple of days, I'd ask her for another pencil. She'd always give me a pencil. And this went on for about a month. And then one day I asked her for a pencil. She gave me a pencil. And this one had a D on it. Boy, when I saw that, wow, it's got my initial on this one. So right out there in my office, I have a jar. And in that jar is the little stub of a pencil with a B on it. That's the one Barbara gave me in 1939 or 1940. And I've still got it.
That's great. That's great.
That's how I met her.
Now,
And then we'd walk home. I'd walk her home from church from 14th and Lincoln, or we'd take a bus and go out to 38th and Columbus or 34th and Columbus, where she lived, and so. If we walked home instead of taking the bus, cost a nickel. But that way I could spend some more time with her and hold her hands and everything.
good plan.
Yeah, and we were both shy. We were both shy children of people, and so I really got to like her, and she liked me, and so she's the only one I ever before I met her. There was a girl I had 2 or 3 dates with, but I was bashful even with that. But that was in my whole life, the only one I ever went with was with Barbara, and I met her in 1940, and she died in 2001. So we were, as far as I'm concerned, we were together 61 years.
And
So
when did you get married?
we were married July the 15th, 1943.
Okay.
And she asked me. She's after we'd gone together for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And she asked me, says, well, when we started talking about marriage, she brought it up. I was too shy to bring it up.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, when I take you home tonight, I'll tell your aunt and uncle that we want to get married. So that's how, and we were married August 15th, 1943.
Yeah. Now, were you in service at the time?
Yeah, when we got married, yeah.
But you hadn't gone overseas yet?
No.
Okay. Was there some talk about, I know a lot of couples they talked about whether or not they wanted to get married before the fellow went overseas. Some thought, well, maybe we should wait and see if I come back, and others wanted to get married right away.
Barbara and I talked about that, and we were so much in love with each other, and her folks did not want us to get married because of the fact that it was well known the Brinduse family had this disease.
Oh, okay.
And back then, see, when Daddy went to the Richmond Insane Asylum, that's what they called it then. It wasn't the Richmond State Hospital.
Yeah.
It was a insane asylum. And so they didn't have any place for people with Alzheimer's. They didn't know.
Right.
And so what did they do? They put Daddy in jail.
Oh, my.
Until they could transport him to the insane asylum.
Oh, gee.
He hadn't done anything bad, but we couldn't handle him.
Right.
But see, now then, there's the nursing homes. They have facilities for this now.
Right.
But that was the way it was. That was the way with our family.
Different times. Different times.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know you've got at least one daughter from this marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, how many children do you have?
Yeah, I have a daughter, Carol, that lives right down the field.
Okay.
And my son Jerry lives in well, right now he's in Houston, Texas, but he has a place in Bangkok, Thailand. And then he has, when he comes here, for, a couple times a year when he's in the States.
Yeah.
So that was and Jerry was he worked his way up, and when he got a job with Aramco Oil, and that's when he retired from there.
Okay.
And he was a flight engineer for the corporate jets.
Oh.
So there'd be the pilot,
Right.
co-pilot, and the stewardess, and Jerry.
Yeah.
So if just like there was a time when they was flying and they had a crack in their window, and those windows are about 5 inches thick. Yeah. Those on an airplane, and so they would they called London, and they had a plane a window whatever it was, and they had it there in London for them. So when they got there, and Jerry would supervise putting that thing together. If the cigarette lighter wasn't working, Jerry took care of that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
Can we take a break?
Okay. Yeah.
Here.
Talking about Jerry and Carol, has Carol ever worked outside of the home, or is she?
No. Carol was she was a teacher at Shenandoah High School.
Okay.
Junior high.
All right.
And then she retired from Shenandoah. I guess about 4 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
And now she works for. She does a lot of alterations and stuff, and she works for. Well, she's working for Bill Gaither right now.
Oh,
They're having
okay.
a big doings there.
Yeah.
And so she works there. She opens it and closes it, and.
He has a nice operation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the fact that he stayed in this area.
Yeah.
He could very easily have just gone anywhere and
been
the big star, but
Mm-hmm.
he's pretty much stayed hometown boy.
And I, after I retired from the post office, I heard that that he was hiring.
Yeah.
So and I went out there and talked to the guy, and he says, we're not, we don't really need anybody right now. And then he asked about me, and I said, well, I was with the Anderson Post Office, and I was supervisor, and I did this, and I did. And I knew about mailing, and so they said, well, maybe we can use you right now.
When did you say that Barbara died?
Barbara died October the 6th, 2001.
Okay. And you say that she was going through a surgery at the time?
Yeah, well, she had had a heart attack on Wednesday,
Oh.
and then on Thursday I took her to then I took her to the emergency room to the hospital, and then Friday they put a stent in her heart, and then then Friday they said, hey, you come and take her home tomorrow, and because it's perfect operation. Well, so when we got ready to, and my sister and her husband was with me, and so I came. So I went to take her home, and I said, "Oh, honey," I said, "with the operation," I said, "you know, they took your wedding rings off,
Right.
and 2 rings, and I've got them glued."
Taped down.
They're put together, and I said, "I've got them in my pocket from the surgery," and so there she's looking at her, and I took her hand and I'm sliding it up here, and I'm talking to her, and all of a sudden she's dead. Here, yeah, there she is, right there.
Yeah.
There on the left, up there, and then here's Ruth and her husband, and so that was I just couldn't handle that. It was just more than I could handle for her. I'm talking to her,
Yeah.
and this is my sweetheart for 61 years, and all of a sudden, it was so instantaneous that she didn't even have any her face wasn't contorted or anything. It was just boom, it was like that.
Oh my.
And that was all I did for the next 16 months was pray to die. I didn't care how I died. I just, but I had, you know, I got my retarded class that I take care of. And they're crying because one girl says, Papa says, Grandpa Dan says, we've already lost Barbara. Now you don't want to live. Who's going to take care of us?
Ah.
And that made me feel bad.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't take Carol's feelings into it. I didn't take Mary's figure, my family. I mean, see, that wasn't important to me. My important thing was to not live, to die. I wasn't trying to be selfish or anything. I just did not want to live. And years later, I found out that, you know, I'd really hurt my family. But it wasn't selfishness.
But it wasn't something you intentionally did to hurt people. It was just such a shock.
And even now, you know, I see a movie where somebody lost their wife and everything. I just get all clouded up.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you hear the heartache is a word.
Yeah.
It's more than a word to me. It was physical pain. And I didn't care if an airplane fell on me. Yeah. I just didn't. That was it.
That's such a double-edged sword. I mean, on one hand, you don't want to see her die of months and months of cancer and suffering. At the other hand, you didn't have any chance to prepare for this one.
But you know what? You know the way I look at it? See, now Ruth went through 5 years of her husband when he died.
She had just the opposite.
And he was blind, and she had took care of him. He was crippled and everything, you know. But I says I would have loved to have her and just take care of her every minute. And that's the way I felt about it. To me, it had been an honor to take care of her all that time. I mean, our love was just that strong. It was the only girl I ever went with.
Yeah.
And that was it. So when I met Ruth, that's the last time I prayed to die. See, God was able to take that pain out of my, take all that pain out and put it back in my heart. Now, the only thing in there now is Barbara.
Yeah.
See, she's got her husband, perfect marriage.
Yeah.
See?
Right.
And that's the way we both feel like we both had miracles, actual miracles happen to us.
Yeah.
And I was healed, boom, just like that. and that she was able to be able to take care of Les and his disabilities. And it was just, that's life.
And when did you get married to Ruth?
We got married 4 days after I turned 80.
Okay.
That was July the 19th, 2003. And so we just celebrated our 9th wedding anniversary.
Let's see, and how old will you be when you hit your 50th anniversary? Let me figure that out here.
Well, it was 1943 and 50 had been 83, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, with Ruth, how long will it be? How old will you be when you have your 50th with her?
Oh, probably 192.
Let's see, 130 and 40.
192 or something like that.
Well, I'm holding you to it.
No, and see now, so right now, and this is what I keep telling everybody. Well, in 11 years from now, when I turn 100, I probably should give some thought to getting rid of 2 or 3 of my chainsaws, and quit climbing on top of the roofs and in 50 feet in the trees, which I still do, you know. But if I feel like it, then when I'm 100, I may just stretch it on up to 105 before I do it.
It's only a
But
number.
here's the main thing: I will know when I shouldn't get up on the roof.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Well,
I can't do it anymore. So
Yeah.
that's,
So you, war started in December of 41.
yeah.
When did you actually go into service?
On Lincoln's birthday, 1943.
Okay. All right. So
yeah.
there was about a year there. What'd you do in between? Where did you work? And
Well, I worked for the Fair Store Shoe Department,
okay.
and I was assistant manager, and then until I was drafted, I worked for the Wool Shoe Company as a Fair Store Shoe Department.
Yeah.
And I was assistant manager there, and then I went into service.
Yeah.
And so that was I went right into the war.
Yeah. People don't understand the shoe business. How different it is. Now you
Well-
walk in, you look through boxes, and you hope you find something that fits.
No. See, back then, see, I worked on a commission,
Yeah.
and so I and you'd have a customer. I remember one of the. I was so bashful. Hey, I'd get talk to a girl. I mean, you know, I'm sweating so hard, and it was embarrassing, you know.
Oh yeah.
And so the manager, he had me working on the cash register, you know, there at the Fair Store. I'd write up the sales and put them in that little tube and send it up to the office, you know. I could do that. Well, after a while, he says, Dan, you're going to start selling shoes. I said, Larry, I can't. I said, I can't. You know, if I get a young girl or something like that, I mean, or an old woman, I can handle that.
Yeah.
But and so the first thing he did, he said, no, you're going to sell shoes. And so they because hey, I knew where all the shoes were because I was keeping the books on it and everything else. And so they so this prostitute came in there in Anderson. It was, there on Fletcher Street. There were sisters. I knew all the whorehouses were.
Yeah.
Because with the post office and everything else, you know. Anyhow, this gal, she was really pretty. She was probably between 25 and 30 years old, you know, and she was good looking, and that was, see, back then nobody smoked, and then they start bringing these girls start using cigarettes.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, so Larry has me waiting on her, and hey, I've got shoes all over the place, you know, and tried all these things, and so I finally got a pair of shoes, and it was size 7.5 B.
Yeah.
And so she says, yeah, I'll take those, but I want them half size smaller. I said, you know, I said, it's going to be too tight. He said, no, they'll stretch out. And so I said, so I went back there and I found a 7B, the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm down there on my knees, you know, and I got my shoehorn in there, and I put her heel in there, and I couldn't get the shoehorn out, and I pulled, and up between both her legs and her dress, and I began to sweat, and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She said, "Oh, that's okay, honey," and that's all it took. Boy, that scared me half to death. And the way I went to the back, I went behind there. They like to never got me out of the back room. And so they made me come out and finish that sail. But that was my experience with girls. So.
We haven't even got to the military stuff yet.
We're not even there yet.
So you were drafted?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and so I was drafted on Lincoln's birthday, February the 12th, 1943, and then so I went down to Fort Benjamin Harrison, and so they said everybody that passed, and one of the guys in Anderson, he was in my class, and I won't give his name because he's well known here in Anderson. He doesn't live here anymore, but he was right in front of him. I'm Brinduse, his was starts with B, and so they're looking at him, and so they checked his ears was punctured, and so they just put 4F on there and give these things. He says, "Go get dressed." I figured, oh wow, I'm not going to the war, because I could go to the YMCA and hold my nose and blow, and bubbles would come out both ears.
Oh, gee.
And so they looked at her and they said, "Okay, pass." I said, "You see those holes?" They said, "Well, they're pretty well healed over now." So I went in. So I passed. Okay, so everybody is sworn in.
Yeah.
Army, Navy, and Marines. We're all sworn in together. See. And he says, "Okay." There's about 200 of us. He said, "Anybody wants to join the Marines, go in that corner." So at least 80% of us went in that corner. We all joined the Marines.
Yeah.
He said, "If you want to join the Navy, over in that corner." So a few more went over there. He said, "Now everybody left over, you're in the Army." And so they said, "Now, the Navy and the Marines, you ship out tomorrow." This is Fort Benjamin Harrison.
Yeah.
Get on New York Central Railroad. "You ship out tomorrow for the Navy and to the Marines. Everybody in the Army, see you back here in 1 week." Everybody came back to the Army. So you know, you talk to somebody during World War II, and they said, "Well, at least we didn't have draftees." I says, "I was drafted, and I was in the Marines for 5 minutes. Don't tell me I wasn't in the Marines. I was. When I took my oath of allegiance, I was in the Marines." But I was in the Marines for 5 minutes. But I would have loved to stay in the Marines. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah. Why the Marines? Why the Marines?
Well, I mean, I liked to march. I liked map reading. I liked everything. The only thing I didn't know was about guns. I didn't know anything about guns.
Yeah.
But I liked to drill, and that was just. And I really loved the infantry.
Huh.
And if I couldn't have walked, say when they took me out there took me out of combat and put me into the 9th Air Force, then that's because I couldn't walk. And my feet were healing up from the 25 below zero.
Right.
You know, and so then I found out about 6-7 years ago at one of my Army reunions, my company commander, he says, "Dan, I was waiting for you to come back a third time because I was going to give you a battlefield commission." Oh. I said, "If I would have known that, you wouldn't have known that I couldn't walk, because I'd have come back."
You'd have come back.
Because I loved the infantry. I really did love it. Yeah. It was just like Boy Scouts, except somebody's shooting at you and trying to kill you. That's the only difference.
minor difference.
The infantry is the same as the Boy Scouts, really.
Yeah.
Everything I learned. Hey, I knew the compass. I knew everything, and when in fact, the officer that promoted me all those times, and so we were out on a big thing. It was at nighttime. Was on a big problem down in Louisiana, and the first sergeant says, "Brinduse," says, "Take us back in." I'm just a PFC, and here I'm taking over the whole company, marching them back in. See, and so they said, so they give me a piece of paper, and we were supposed to come. We had to go so many yards this way, so many yards that way, and so many, and so hey man, I knew the compass. I knew everything about it.
Yeah. And
it says go 800 yards, whatever the degree was, and so I looked at it. It had a prismatic compass. I still got it because you can see it in the night, and so I took a reading and I shut it and I said, okay, that way, and the company commander says, "What? You shut the compass? How do you know where you're going?" I said, "Well, look at this azimuth. There's a North Star up there, and this is 1 degree off the North Star. I'm just going to the left of the North Star." I didn't even need the compass.
Yeah.
after I saw what the degree was.
Yeah.
It was 360, so it'd be like 359 or something like that. So I just looked at the North Star, and away I went. Man, we just came back perfect.
Pretty good.
But I and then I was promoted to sergeant, and then when the war ended, I had 5 stripes as a tech sergeant. And then I was promoted to, after that, before I was discharged, I was promoted to a warrant officer, and then to a captain, and then to a major. And that's when the war ended. I was a major.
From Fort Harrison, where'd you go from there?
We got on a week later. We got on the train, went right to Fort Lewis, Washington.
Fort Lewis? Boy,
yeah, here, and all the blinds were down.
Huh.
And Eisenhower was in charge of Fort Lewis just before we got there. I think he was a lieutenant colonel back then. And so you didn't know where you were, but everybody, hey, I'm looking out under the windows in the daytime and seeing what state I'm in, so I'm pretty well had an idea of what direction we're going, And that's how we got to Fort Lewis.
Did you happen to run across Marvin Apgar while you were there? He was
Melvin Apgar?
Yeah, Marvin.
Marvin Apgar. Yeah, Marvin Apgar was in the 44th Division.
Okay, all right.
He was in my division.
Yeah, he said he was in Fort Lewis.
Yeah,
would have been about that time.
Yeah, well, that's Marvin Apgar was in the 44th Division.
Great.
I was in the 114th Infantry. I think Marvin was in the 324th or the 71st. I don't know which regiment he was in.
Yeah.
We got 5.
So Fort Lewis, it sounded like you enjoyed basic training.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah. I mean, it was just because see, in fact, in the Boy Scouts, you don't say about face. You say right about face or left about face. In the Army, it's just you go one way and that's to the right.
Okay.
Well, see, I mean, I knew all of that, and so it was just something I loved to do.
Yeah. And so you were in Fort Lewis, what, about 6 weeks, 9 weeks?
No, see, it was more than that, because we were in Fort Lewis from February the 19th, what took 3 days to get out there, until about 43. So this, in February. So in about December, we went down to Louisiana maneuvers.
Okay.
So about the rest of 43, we were in Fort Lewis, Washington. Yeah, we were in Fort Lewis, Washington in Christmas of 43.
And then
We went to Louisiana maneuvers.
Where in Louisiana?
Shreveport.
Shreveport?
Yeah, Shreveport was our APO.
Okay.
But we was all from there over to Texas, all through the swamps down there.
Yeah. And then after your training there, where did they send you?
Okay, from there we went to Camp Phillips, Kansas.
Camp Phelps?
Camp Phillips.
Phillips, okay.
And then from there, then we went to Boston.
Yeah.
And then we got on the then we went out into the ocean, and we left from Rhode Island, I think it was. We left. Got on the boats.
Now, Camp Phillips, that was advanced training of some kind. What did you learn in Camp Phillips?
Well, we just we learned compasses and well, I mean, we learned everything about the infantry.
Okay.
And we had rifle ranges and
training.
everything.
All right. And then.
So that was just, and then in fact, we had to take basic training twice, because there was other guys coming in, so they redid us.
Okay.
And then this was from Camp Phillips, and we were ready to go into the war.
All right. And
So then we went to
Miles Standish, maybe?
yeah, to Camp Miles Standish
Okay.
in Boston, and that's where, from there, Camp Miles Standish, we got on the troop trains.
Now, was it like an ocean liner that you went on, or a
No,
Liberty ship?
it was Liberty ships.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it. I've got it in my book, but
Probably went in a convoy then, I would think.
yeah, and so I don't know how many. I know that there was the 15,000 of the 44th Division got on there, and so when you got ready to and before we left Camp Miles Standish, we had to have you take your urine test before you shipped out, and this one guy, blame Israel. He was from Louisiana, and he couldn't fill that jar, I said, "Give it to me." So I filled his tube too. See.
Yeah.
And when we got in the war, the very first person I saw get killed was blame Israel.
Huh.
And we were advancing onto the Germans. The artillery would come in there. Maybe about 100, 150 artillery pieces was going over our head, and then into this forest. And man, that whole forest would just erupt. And then after so long, then they'd cut it off, and we'd advance, and then the artillery would go up another 200 yards, or 300 or whatever it was. And so we did that 2 or 3 times going towards the Germans. And the one time when they says, okay, ceasefire, they told the artillery to cease, and then raise it up another 100. Well,
Okay. And you say the artillery was coming in, and then it stopped. And then
we would advance 200 yards, and then we would have ceasefire, and then the artillery would move up another 200 yards towards the Germans, where the Germans were in the forest. And so this one time, we were told to start advancing again because the artillery was being raised. Well, they didn't raise it, and we were walking into our own artillery.
Oh boy!
And our first scout was Blim Israel from Louisiana, BLIM, Blim Israel is his name, and there's the artillery's coming in on our lead scout.
Oh boy!
And so he must have been about 200 yards, about 200 or 300 yards in front of us, and so I heard him scream, and I looked out there, and he raised up and flopped down.
Oh,
It killed him.
Oh,
So that was my first one that I saw
that's
get killed.
it's a hard thing to see.
And then the other guy died when I was. That's where I got the Silver Star.
Yeah.
On the next one.
Well, you went across the ocean, and you say you landed in Ireland.
No. We landed in Normandy.
Oh, they took you straight over to Normandy.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were the first unit our convoy was the first one to go from the United States directly to the war.
Okay, so this would have
See,
been...
everybody else would have gone to England and then come over.
Yeah.
And so the beachhead was at let's see, was
You say you went in on Utah Beach?
yeah.
Okay.
And the main beach was
Omaha?
yeah, it was Omaha, yeah. And we were just to the right of Omaha.
Okay. Okay. And this would have been in 44, probably about July of 44 maybe? Or?
No, this was been in
June 6, 44 is when they...
August, September.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about the last of August, 1st of September.
Okay. About 3 months after.
Yeah, when we got in there. Now, the Germans were still in the area,
Right.
but we were getting ready to move out to Nancy, France, in that area.
Okay.
And we got on the 40 and 8 rail cars from World War I.
What were the facilities like on Utah Beach? Did you have a regular pier, or how did you actually get on the beach? LST or something? Or?
No, our ship came up as close as they could to the beach, and then we would go over the side on those rope ladders
Down the nets.
and then we would get into in 2.5 ton trucks that could swim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they would just it was a ship until it was a regular 2.5 ton truck.
Yeah.
But then when we got to the beach, then that's when we got to the beach and then we got out.
Okay.
But it was not a Navy ship.
Okay.
It was
Wasn't a Higgins boat or a Duck or anything like that. It
was just regular 2.5 ton trucks that they had pedals on it or whatever they did.
Huh.
But anyhow they could go through the water.
Yeah.
Go through the water until they got on the sand, and then they'd start driving
Okay.
till we get out.
Um,
That was Utah Beach,
now
and I think that's where Utah Beach. I think also that's where the French Army was too, in Utah Beach.
Now, was it when you first landed and got everybody together? Was there like a camp area near the beach that you organized and then went on from there?
It's at Anglais. I forget the name of the little village.
Okay.
But no, we just had our pup tents. See, when you're in your combat unit, your field pack is wrapped up in half and half. The half is your bag up at the top, then the rest of it is your raincoat and your one blanket.
Okay.
And half of a shelter half.
Okay.
Half of a tent, and so you wrap that up. So then when you get there, then you break it apart, and then unwrap it all, and there's your half of a tent that you got everything wrapped up in.
Okay.
So you button that half with somebody else. That makes and then you got your tent poles, one for the front, and then the other guy has one from the back.
Okay.
And then you have your stakes to you pound in.
Right. Okay.
So so we stayed in that. We stayed in those little tents.
Okay. Did you move up pretty quickly, or were you in that area for a little bit of time?
No, it was we were just there less than a week.
Okay.
Then we got all our outfit, we got all our stuff, our packs together again, and our helmets and our gas masks and everything, and then we got on the trains, the 40 and 8 trains.
Okay.
Now it's 40 and 8 was from World War I. That would have been that one boxcar would take care of 40 soldiers
Yeah.
and 8 horses.
Okay.
That's why they call it 40 and 8.
Yeah.
And these were actually left over from World War One.
Yeah.
But the trains could pull them, you know.
Right.
And we went from the beaches of Utah Beach on the trains through to the vicinity of Nancy, France.
Okay.
And that's where when we it was about 2 o'clock in the morning when we got there, and then we unloaded, and then we start marching in to take over the field positions, the foxholes, from the 79th Infantry. We were relieving the 79th Infantry Division.
Okay.
The 44th was.
Okay.
And so we were. Everything was quiet, and you know that was. We went in about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and the guys were up there from the 79th, and we would take over somebody's foxhole. And we stayed there for about another week, and then that's when we went on into combat. Okay. And my outfit went into Imbert-Mesnil, France, and that's where I was wounded the first time.
So just almost as soon as you got there, you were wounded, or was
well,
there
yeah. Well, I guess it was about a week later.
Okay.
As we would be here, and then would move up another area, and then when we got into the forest, and that's when on November the 16th, 1944. That's when that was November 16th. So that would it must have taken about a month for us to get in position to where we was actually fighting the Germans in the forest.
When did you first realize I'm in a war? Fellows seem to tell me that there's a certain point they see something, or they experience something, or they hear something.
Well, no, as you get from the rear area, you're marching up to the front lines.
Yeah.
And then just soon as you get to where you're going to be that night, you start digging the foxhole.
Yeah.
And then the next morning you move out, or in the middle of the night you move out, or whenever. Whatever the instructions are for the company commander.
What did you think the first time you heard artillery in the distance?
Well, yeah, we could hear it way up there. So this would have been about 10 miles ahead of us.
Yeah.
And you'd see the flashes and stuff like that. But and then see, there's one time. I remembered that all these artillery, I forget how many artillery shells came in and did not explode.
Oh my!
And then I was reading. Then I saw this something's Himmler's List. Now what's the name of that? There, the famous movie.
Schindler's List.
Yeah, Schindler's List. Yeah. And I looked at that thing. And I told Barbara, I said, honey, I said, look at this. That's why these shells weren't just all around me. And then maybe there'd be 10 or 15 shells there, blah, blah, blah. But they weren't exploding.
Huh.
And that's because Schindler.
Because of Schindler.
They were recalculating the thing. And so it wasn't exploding. And I said, that's why they weren't exploding. They was falling all around me.
Yeah.
And there's one, and once one of them hit. It must have been about. I was digging. Yeah, no, this is when it was colder, because it was on the front lines, and it was I didn't have foxhole. We was digging our own, so I would take my shovel, and I would get in clumps, and I would throw a big clump of ice and dirt, and I'd put it over here to my left, and then another chunk, and I'd put it up here higher, one up here close to my head, And so I had my shape of my body with these clumps of dirt, and maybe I'd just be just about this much farther down.
Yeah.
But then I'd have this much mud and everything, and one hit probably there was a shell that hit, and the stubbles and the everything and the weeds, and it hit about 100 yards to my left. And all of a sudden, all this mud is flying all over everything, you know, the ice and junks and everything. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I was, and something hit me right in my left side, on my cartridge belt where my bullets are and everything.
Yeah.
And so, of course, my gloves are wet, and I reached over to pick this thing up, and steam's just pouring out of my hand. It was white hot. It was that shell just blew up, and it came through those weeds, and it was jaggedy, you know. Yeah. And it was catching through all those weeds and mud and everything. And by the time it hit my left, I should have got another Purple Heart for that, because but it didn't break the skin or anything. But I had a nice big bruise there, and then I picked that thing up and I threw it back down, and it was white hot. Huh. And I remember it was about this big. Now the piece that went in my foot is about. In fact, I've got it out there on the wall. It's in my Purple Heart. Right. With the with that little piece of shrapnel just about like this that went in right here, went in right there on my foot, and it cut those nerves in there. So then from here to here. I take a needle and
just no feeling at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
But where my damage was, that all healed up. But my damage was in the 16th of November and around through that. And then when we advanced up to around Christmas, and then by January the 8th, it was at 25 below zero. Ooh. And I was very fortunate because all I had was my feet were frozen from about halfway up to my knee, both of those, and so I couldn't walk. And so they pulled me out of my foxhole and put me on ambulance, and then that was the last. Then after that, well, I guess so I could walk. After I didn't need crutches anymore to walk. Then they put me in the 9th Air Force. Instead of sending me back to my outfit, I'd rather gone back to my outfit because that's where I wanted to go. Oh, yeah. But they says, no, you can't walk that good. And so what I didn't know was my commanding officer back there, he was waiting for me to come back the 3rd time, and he was going to make me a 2nd lieutenant. Thank you, Lieutenant. And if he had done that, then I would have been a 2nd lieutenant, 1st lieutenant when the war was over. Yeah. And I would have stayed in the Army, and because then I'd just come home, getting ready to go to Japan. But I wouldn't. I would stay in the Army for the rest of my career.
Well, tell me about the time you earned the Silver Star. What was the situation there?
Yeah, we were in this. We were in this forest, like we was going, was jumping up, and so in my squad, I've just had a half squad then. I've just assistant squad leader. There's 6 of us. So there's 12 in the squad. So my half of the squad, then the squad leader, he had the other 6. Okay. And so we were in this forest, and the Germans knew we were in there, and so the shells were coming in, and so we were trying to dig in, and we didn't have enough dug, and we usually try to put a top over it, some trees or something, right, and then mud on top of that to protect us, Well, the artillery was coming in, and there was 11 of us, and 10 of us was 10 were dead, and this one guy, Fred Bard from Mount Union, Pennsylvania, he's the one that I was going to. He had been hit here in his right groin, And so I ripped my my canister off of my cartridge belt, opened it up, and got a great big bandage about like this here, and I put it in there, and it just sunk right into his body. It was, that hole was that big.
Oh my gosh.
And so I kept him alive for about 45 minutes. And then I made a stretcher out of my my raincoat, and I turned it inside out. Now the sleeves are on the inside, and I buttoned up the raincoat, and I put my rifle down one sleeve. Then I took my bayonet and chopped a limb and put it down the other tree, down the other sleeve, and then we was able to carry Fred for about a couple of football fields to this barn, to this house that had been a German aid station. We had just captured this aid station.
Okay.
So this German captain, he was taking care of the American wounded and the German wounded. And so I got Fred there, and that's when he died. And I was by the time we got him over that place, and then the artillery was still coming in, and so that's what I got the Silver Star for. That they was, and I didn't realize that when I was doing all this, you know, by that time, you know, it was cold, and I didn't feel the fact that I'd been hit by the same artillery. And so by the time I got back to my unit, which was maybe 200 or 300 yards back into the forest, and I got back and my feet was beginning to hurt. And so I took my bayonet and I scraped the mud off my right boot, and I couldn't see anything wrong. So I took my shoe off, and I was just floating in blood on my right foot. So then I had to walk back to that aid station and to be evacuated back to the hospital in Nancy, around Nancy, France. And so when I got back there, by that time, then here was Fred and all these other guys. They were just piled up in a big pile in the mud and the snow, and that's the last I saw of them when I got on the ambulance.
It'd be one thing to see the pile of the dead soldiers, but it'd be another to see one that you knew in that pile.
Yeah, well, I knew Fred was in there.
Yeah.
And when there was before I was evacuated out of there, when it got real cold, we had some new guys come into the unit, and they didn't know, they didn't know anything. So they had me walk them through the area, and show them these different things, And we looked down. I looked down, and there's somebody's arm, about from here on down. And I remember he still had his glove on his right arm. And I remember he had freckles. The guy had freckles on his arm. That's all I remember.
Wow. And
so I just put it back down on the ground, and somebody will pick it up. Yeah. The rear echelon, when they picking up the supplies and the shoes and everything, cartridge belts and everything else is laying in the ground, and they'd find his arm, and I don't know whose arm it was, but there it was laying in this forest. So
the day that you carried Fred back, that was a pretty tough day. Was that the toughest day you faced while you were over there, or did you have another day that you feared more, or?
No, I had some. Of course, when I got back to then I was out of the war.
Right.
But before that, there was a time when I was assistant squad leader. My Sergeant Windruff, he came and he says, Dan, he says, we've been cut off. He says, E Company's here, and we don't know where battalion is, and somewhere between battalion and E Company is the radio is off.
Right.
And so he says, you're the only one that can get us out of here. So I took one of the radios from Company E,
right,
and then I followed the wire from Company E back towards where battalion would be.
Okay.
So I had to go like from here, probably I had to go maybe 3/4 of a mile, maybe a mile, in 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and so as I was going along here, and I see a black spot up ahead of me, and I knew that that's where an artillery shell had come down there and broke our telephone wire. So I'd take my wire and follow it till the end of it.
Right.
Then I'd have to find the other part and pull it together and splice it, and then I'd hook it up and call Company E and say, I found this. I'm going on to the next spot.
Right.
So then I'd take where I've already spliced it, and then I'd follow it maybe for another 300 or 400 yards until I fit. So I went through about 4 or 5 those spots, those in the black spots in the snow, till I finally, this time when I called, I got hold of battalion. And so I went on the battalion and reported, and then I came back to where my company was. But it was like I say, it was I really enjoyed the infantry. I really did, and the only difference is it was just like Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
Except there's somebody's trying to kill you.
Somebody trying to kill you.
But that's what war is. You try to kill. Oh, and when I was going back, when I went back, and they had to go back, and then because my foot was bleeding, and so they said, well, while you're going back, take this prisoner with you. So now, by this time, all my people are dead, and I am angry. I'm angry at anything German. So they're giving me a young German soldier to take back, and I was so angry that I didn't care if he got killed or whatever. But so I put my bayonet on my rifle and had full clips of 30 caliber ammunition in there, and so I motioned for him to keep going. So he kept going, and by the time we got back to this aid station, I got so I couldn't walk. I'm dragging my right foot because it hurt so bad.
Right.
And so I'd holler for him, Achtung, for him to halt, and he'd halt, and then he knew that I figured, well, I have to kill him because there's no way I'm be able to get all the way back there. I'm going to fall down, and he's going to take my rifle, and he's going to shoot me with my rifle or stab me with my bayonet.
All right.
And I thought, well, I don't have any choice but just to kill him. So now here's a boy. He's like 15 years old. He's just a young kid, and I was 21. Right. But I was so angry because all my people was dead, and here's this guy still alive, and I blamed him for all this. And so I had him face me, and I took my rifle, and all I had to do was take my little finger and just click it like this, and it would take the safety off, and then all I have to do is just pull it back an eighth of an inch, and he's dead. I've got him shot. See, so that's what I had to do. So I stopped, and I tried to pull the trigger, and God froze my finger. I couldn't move it. I couldn't move it, and I was so angry that this guy, he's caused all my people to be killed, and I can't kill him. And so I put the safety back on and told him to keep going. And 3 more times I tried to kill him because my feet was hurting so bad. I couldn't even pick him up. All I could do was just drag my right foot. And I got all the way back after 2 or 3 more times trying to kill him. And every time I did that, God froze my finger. I could not pull that trigger as hard as I tried. I couldn't pull that trigger, you see. And this is, I've had the burden for that all these years. And I figured, what would have happened? Here I am, I'm a Christian Baptist, and all I want to do is kill somebody. That God would not let me do it. See, this is a another miracle in my life,
Yeah.
where God stepped in and said, Dan, this is the way to go.
It is a miracle.
And I was able to get him back there, turn him over to the MPs. Then I was out of the war.
Wow.
So.
Have you ever wished you could meet him again now, after all these years?
Yes, I have. I'm so sorry that I didn't, because see, I've been back to Europe twice since then, since the war, and I would have loved to have had his name and address, and I'd have loved to gone to his town and looked him up.
You kind of wonder what happened to him in life, what
Well,
he might have done.
Because you see, he had to know. See, he knew that he was dead.
Yeah.
He knew that I was going to kill him, because he could see my anger, and God was able to control that anger. And see, I ought to have had that on my conscience all my life. Now, the day before, I'm shooting out there, 2 or 3 clips at a time. I'm shooting the Germans, and but here I'm assassinating this boy, and he's just like 15 years old. He was just a child. And when we go to our reunions, there's a boy from Irving, Texas, and he was a PW that we captured during World War II. My not our company,
Right.
but a company. I was in E Company in the 1st Battalion. There's the one that captured this boy, and he was 14 years old. And he's one of my best friends, and I just love him to pieces.
Yeah.
And now the last couple of years he hadn't been able to come because he can't afford the airplane ticket.
Right.
But when I see him, and I see this little boy that I tried to kill, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah, when you're shooting at the woods, that's one thing.
That was assassination.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
But you see, why am I doing it? Because he's going to kill me.
That's right, and he would.
I just got married a year before.
Yeah.
I want to get back to Barbara.
Yeah.
You know, this is where my life is. And then after the war was over, and my brother Johnny came down to Camp Atterbury to pick me up, and there was Johnny and Corinne, his wife, and here's Barbara, and I hadn't seen her for about 2 years. And I couldn't believe how soft her hands were and everything.
Yeah.
And I was able to kiss her and all this time. And of all the time I was over there, I didn't know anybody that didn't have the girlfriends in France, in Belgium, in Germany.
Yeah.
See? And I was faithful to Barbara. I wrote her every day. When they have mail call, the mail the clerk, he'd have 2 or 3 bundles of mail, and I'd see a blue envelope, and I'd see 2 envelopes, and I'd see Barbara always used blue envelopes.
Yeah.
And so I just knew this coming, and I knew that within a week's time I did 1 or 2 letters from her. She'd try to write every day. I tried to write every day. Didn't cost me anything. I just wrote free on it.
Right.
And that was free postage. And it went right through airmail, you know.
Nothing quite proves your love like a good war.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But we had, God took care of me through that war.
You had a little different situation. A lot of guys we talked to were part of a replacement unit, and so they really didn't get to know the fellas in their unit all that well, but you went over as a unit.
Yeah. See, these guys, we'd gone all through basic training in Fort Lewis, Washington, Camp Phillips, Kansas, and the Louisiana maneuvers. See, so these are, hey, I knew everybody's serial numbers, Army serial numbers. I knew what city they're from. I knew what the names of their brothers and sisters were. And these are the guys that I see laying in the snow dead. And I had a hatred. And Mother and Daddy, they didn't teach us to have hatred like that.
Yeah.
So I had to, I had to learn it all over again.
Of those 10 fellows, can you tell me some of the names and maybe a little something about them? Or
Well, it's Fred Bard and Bill Gaither. They're in Toledo, and Rosensteel. Well, Bob Rosensteel, he lives in Mount Union, Pennsylvania, the same place where Bard was.
yeah.
So that's where I want to go, and I want to ask Rosie. I want to see Bard's grave, or did they bring him home, or is he over there in France still?
Yeah.
See, but so that's one of the things my daughter is going to. We're going to drive to Mount Union, Pennsylvania, for take 2 or 3 days, and then I want to go to that town. I'm going to go to the mortuary, go to the city hall or someplace, and say I want to know where Fred Bard is buried.
There has to be a record.
Because I was there when he died.
Yeah.
So.
Now, did the fellows in that group, did they all die from artillery, or was it some from gunfire?
No. These when I was wounded the first time, there was 11 of us.
Okay.
And only 10 of us. They just counted the ones that died. So I know that 10 died, and I was wounded in my right foot. Then that was been November 16th, 1944. Then in January the 8th, 45, is when it was 25 below zero. It was the coldest on record in Europe, and that's when it was really cold. And in the meantime, I'm sleeping on the ground. You know, that's where you sleep.
That's right.
And
now,
I have 2 or 3 pair of pants on. And
was this in the Bulge area, or was that?
No. The 7th Army was just. The Bulge was the 3rd Army and the 1st Army.
Okay.
Well, the 1st Army was above the 3rd Army was the Bulge, basically.
Right.
I was in the 7th Army.
Okay.
Just below that.
Yeah.
General Patch.
Patch. Okay.
Patch. Okay. Yeah. He was our commander.
Yeah. Is he a good general? Would you consider him a good general?
Oh yeah. I thought I love Patton, and I love MacArthur.
Yeah.
Those are the guys I really admire. You see, Eisenhower was the best general Great Britain had. That's what I've always felt.
Yeah.
But he had to be over the whole thing.
Right.
See, but if when we started advancing the 3rd Army and the 7th, getting to Berlin. By that time, the Germans had already taken all the guns off of the Siegfried line and the Maginot line in
Right.
Paris. They'd take all those guns and put them over on the Russian front, fighting all the artillery. So there wasn't anything between us and Berlin. But Eisenhower cut off all the gasoline for Patton, cut off all the ammunition for him, all the supplies, all the food, everything extras, And so give it to Montgomery up there in the 1st Army. Well, Montgomery he had to have all of these ducks in a row before he did anything. Patton says, we're going to take this if it takes a 2.5-ton truck of dog tags. But if he had the supplies, I wouldn't have been wounded the first time. I wouldn't have from my frozen feet the second time, and the war would have been over. The war would have been over in 1940. It'd been in 1944.
Yeah.
But no, they had to give it to Montgomery, and Montgomery just squandered it.
Yeah, I wasn't too impressed with Montgomery.
No, so that was but I really did love the Army, and I know that if I'd have got that commission, I wouldn't have gone back
You would have stayed.
to the post office.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I got back, everybody was on strike. The steel mills, the coal mills, everybody was on strike, and so they so I was at the YMCA playing handball. You know, I didn't have a job, you know, and so this had been in right after the war, and so then they I was up to YMCA, and I was in the shower. I just got through getting a shower and getting ready to put my clothes on, and the guy says, "Were you in the war?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Were you wounded?" I said, "Yeah, a couple times," and he said, "Well, the postmaster over there, he's hiring people over there at the Anderson Post Office, so this would be like 11 o'clock in the morning." So I just went from the YMCA over to the post office, and Ari Davis was the postmaster.
Yeah.
And he said, and I told him that I was interested in seeing about working for the post office. So he asked me my qualifications, and he says, no swearing. I remember he was telling us all this stuff. Well, I never cussed or anything like that, you know. But so that was so he said, "Well, when can you start?" I said, "Well, it's about 11:30 now. Let me call my wife and tell her I won't be home. I'm not gonna catch the bus." And he said, "Well, come back at 1 o'clock and start working." So 1 o'clock, I came back, and Charlie Saunders was the mail carrier that I helped, and so they give me a mail bag, to give me a post office key to unlock the relay boxes, and so I got on the bus, and they told me where to get off the bus there on Pearl Street or someplace. So I had my mail bag with about 5 bundles of mail, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I took number 1 and I carried it till I got that enough, and I took number 2 and kept going. When I got into number 5, there was a mailbox waiting on me, relay box.
Yeah.
I took my key, opened it up. There was a bag of mail. I dumped it out, put it in my mail bag. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And I did that till about 5:30. I got done, and I got on the bus. I had a mail bag. That's all I needed to do was show him my key and my mail bag, and I rode it back uptown.
And looking at the shadow box here, there's quite a few medals. Dan, you have more metal than Kaiser. And we can see in this a silver star and the bronze star. What'd you get the bronze star for?
Everybody, if you're in combat, you automatically get the bronze star.
Okay.
Now
Combat
there's
infantry
another
badge.
bronze star you can get if you have a meritorious service.
Okay.
Then see, in other words, that would be with the silver star, and then the bronze star with the citation.
Okay. Now, one thing I noticed is that you have the combat infantry badge, and just on the opposite side of your picture, you got a badge that just looks like part of the combat infantry badge, and,
Okay.
and I've never seen it separate like that.
Okay, the reason is because the one without the wreath is the expert infantry badge.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that took me about 3 months to earn. Now, when you get into combat, you automatically get the combat infantry badge.
Okay.
But there's not too many in our battalion of like 2,000 guys. I don't suppose there's 5 guys that has the expert infantry badge. You see, on that you had to do all the infantry stuff. You had to know how to do the radio. You had to do the signal. Everything about the infantry. you had to know to get the expert infantry badge, and that took about 2 or 3 months for me to get all of those things.
Okay.
And so there's not too many people even have that. And so when I got that gave me $5 extra a month. And then when I got into combat and I got the combat infantry badge, they took my $5 away and give me $10. The guys in the Air Force who was flying up there, if they was making $400 a month, if their pay was, now they got $600 a month. So they got 50% of their pay added on to what they had. So I got $10 added to mine. They had $300 or $400 added to theirs.
Oh.
And I'm up there 24 hours a day, and they're just flying over.
Yeah. So you're saying if you know everything, they give you an extra $5 a month.
Yeah.
If you know nothing, they make you commander in chief
Yeah,
and pay you
yeah,
$500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just read them across.
Silver Star, the Bronze Star, Purple Heart. I recognize it, but I think it's the World War II.
Oh yeah,
Medal?
you're trying to read those little
Yeah.
things.
And oh, it's going to be a little hard to read. I can't quite read the.
Okay. Okay. We'll just picture.
But
Here,
I got to look them up.
here,
Know
here,
what
let
they
me-
are.
Let me have the. Let me get my glasses.
Okay.
I think I can read them for you.
Okay.
Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Good Conduct Medal, American Theater, European, Mediterranean Theater, Victory World War II Victory Medal. Then the Army of Occupation is the 8th one.
Okay.
Okay, then on
Second row.
on the second row is American Defense Medal. The next one is Combat Service Medal. The next one is Victory in Europe Medal. World War II Victory Medal. Cold War Victory. Wow, you know that last one. No, I can't see that one.
Yeah.
Then the other one is the Overseas Service, and the last one is reserves,
Okay.
like
All right.
reserve guards. But yeah, that third one I can't read it.
Okay. Now, if you go to the bottom shadow box,
Yeah.
we see.
Okay. On the left hand side are the American ribbons. There's my citation for the Silver Star in the black box. Then underneath of it is the Bronze Star Medal and the Purple Heart Medal. On the bottom is a Combat Infantry Badge and the Expert Infantry Badge. And on the right-hand side is a French Medal of Honor. In fact, that reads that also reads that I was made a knight. Let's see here. Okay, it is a great honor and privilege to present you with the Knight of the Legion of Honor medal. Okay, so that medal is called the Knight of the Legion of Honor French medal. and that was created by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1802.
Wow. Pretty impressive.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll put on pause.
Okay, go.
Okay, we're in 12-0006. We're on tape number 4. You're in the post office from 45 until 78.
Yeah.
You were there about 10 years longer than what my dad was. Was it mostly?
Well, but he was there before I was, wasn't he?
Possibly so. It would have been, well, about that same period of time. He worked 20 years in the post office, so yeah, it was about the same period of time. But we were talking on the phone about those Colt 45s that they used to hang on the side of the sorting racks, and you were telling me you had an occasion to actually use one of those.
Yeah. As a guy came in to hold us up, and I took the one out of the safe, and I jumped out the front steps and leveled it right to pick him off just before he got to Meridian Street.
Yeah.
And I was just about ready to squeeze it, and he turned left, and he was gone.
Oh,
Or I'd have dropped him. I'd have dropped him right in the middle of Meridian Street.
holy smokes!
I was so angry. Here's a guy holding. How dare him hold me up, and I've got a wife and 2 little children at home.
Yeah.
I really took offense at that.
Well, I can imagine.
And his mother said, "Well, that's because so they got him drunk and he was on his medication." I said, "That's his problem. My problem was that he was threatening my life."
Yeah.
And then they come in the next day and take all the guns out.
Oh. Now, for the record, what were those guns used for?
That's what they was used for somebody
For
coming in and
protection.
hold you up.
But then wasn't there a rail shipment that would come in and you would?
Well,
have
yeah. But they had those little. When they took all the guns out, all they left us was little bitty guns. Not that big thing I was going down the street with that 38.
Well, it'd scare you to death. You wouldn't have to shoot anybody.
Yeah. Hey, I about knocked those people down coming out of the post office cafe, and I'm running. I've got my apron up with this hand. I got that big old 38. It's about that long.
Oh yeah.
Like this here, and I'm running just flying as fast as I could go. And here came these 2 men and 2 girls out of the post office cafe. And I'm trying to go through them, you know, and what's this crazy man run down? And I was running so fast when I got to Meridian Street I couldn't stop. And now that I'm like this, I'm in the middle, and here comes 3 lanes of traffic on me.
Yeah.
And here I had this great big gun, and I had to go back. By that time, the police was there, the sheriff was there, and so all of us went out looking for this guy, and I couldn't find him.
Oh boy. but the police got him.
No. He got away.
Oh, okay.
Then about less than a month later, he and 2 other guys robbed one of the taverns over on 9th Street, and then that's when they got him, and now I testified against him.
Those were exciting days at the post office.
Yeah, and then the next day in the newspapers, Clerk Dan Brinduse chased him down the street with the. You see, who was talking to me the other day about somebody chasing him down? Bob Friend. He says.
Oh yeah.
He says, wasn't there something about you chasing that guy down there with that gun? I said, yeah. I just about dropped him, and then he just said I was ready to squeeze it off because I had that thing ready.
Yeah.
And I was just getting ready to squeeze it off, and then he turned left, and then I lost him.
I know Mom used to go in at Christmas time, post office auxiliary, and she would help out with the Christmas rush. Did Barbara do any of that?
No.
Okay.
No, she was working at Duckarimi.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Why? Well, did Dad pretty much behave himself while he was there?
Well, he was in a different section. I mean, he was with the didn't he work the front window?
He worked the front window,
Yeah.
and he did later on. He worked the sorting racks. I think at the new post office on Rabel, he did the sorting
Oh, is that
racks.
right?
Yeah, toward the end, but most of the time he was on the window.
Yeah. By the time we got up to on Rabel Avenue, then they made me superintendent of Station A.
Okay.
Let's stop for a second.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, go.
All right. Yeah. Could you ever imagine back then that we'd be paying over 40 cents for a first class stamp?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No, not really, because see, when I went to the post office, all the 1 cent stamps were green. All the 2 cent stamps were pink.
Yeah.
All the 3 cent stamps was purple.
Yeah.
And then the 5 cent stamps were blue. The 4 was a deep purple. And I pretty well knew all the colors.
Yeah.
And yeah, but you just about look at the color of the stamp. I look at the color stamp, and I knew what the denomination was.
Yeah.
And I had and then I would buy back then I was saving stamps, and being I was superintendent of Station A, then we had a meter up there, for people for parcels on the window, and then when the 5 cent stamps came out, see, $5 stamps.
Mm.
See, then that's 100 of those is what?
Yeah.
$500.
$500. Yeah.
So I would buy a $500 sheet of stamps
Yeah.
because for the Station A, and then I would take the right hand corner wherever the plate number was, upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right.
Right.
Wherever those were, then I always saved those 4 with the plate block number.
Yeah.
And I've got $5 stamps with all 4 corners the same plate number.
Huh.
That's hard to get.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be.
And then when they had that, then they also had the $5 on a coil. So I would buy a coil of 100 $5 stamps. So on those, every 25 stamps would be a line pair. So I would tear that. I would take those 2 with the line pair, and I'd add 1 to it. So I'd have a line pair with 2 stamps on each side of the line pair.
Huh.
And then that's the same as saving plate blocks.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Dad had showed me the plate blocks.
Yeah. So see, so I've got all those. So then I used to have my stamp collection for $60,000 insurance, and then I start tearing up my sheets, the ones I had for sheets.
Right.
That if it was a good sheet, then I'd save that. But then, or if not, then I'd just save the plate block. Then I would take the other 96 and put them on priority packages, and so I would have that whole thing with 1 cent stamps over the upper right hand corner of the priority envelope. I'd leave a space to put the meter, and here in the middle of it, I'd place to put the label, mailing label, and the rest of it would be solid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 21, 29, 25, 24s.
Yeah.
And then I just have just 1 stamp of all the different kinds. I wouldn't put 2 of the same kind on there if I could help
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But and so I end up with those priority envelopes about this high, and every one of them was loaded with all these denomination stamps.
Huh.
And then I knew how many was on there, and then I'd have it, I'd say 37 12-cent stamps or whatever, and then I'd have I'd tell how much that is. Then they would add the difference between that and the $4.95 or whatever the price of the thing is now.
Yeah. I remember that you did everything you could back in those days to make sure a letter was delivered, up to the point of Dad actually brought letters home every now and again to see if we could read the handwriting on it, because nobody at the station could read the handwriting, so they would send it home and see if their family, someone could actually read the address on the letter.
Well, I could. I was pretty good. I mean, I could about always find an address.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've seen an awful lot of handwriting.
But there was one in particular I remember. So it appeared to be a woman's name, but nobody could read the handwriting well enough to understand what the address was on it. And so they were actually bringing it to people's homes to see if anybody could pick it out.
Well, usually, see, they used to have the dead letter office, and then we would do that at the Anderson post office.
Right.
Then everything went to Indianapolis. None of that stuff was done in Anderson.
Right.
So by opening up the letter, then you're going to put it in an official mail envelope to mail it on.
Right.
Then you can find out things on the inside of the thing. Maybe pick up an address or something from that.
Yeah. Were you there when First Methodist Church caught fire?
Yeah, Albert Sheets was going over to the Herald office, and he's the one who reported that.
Okay.
It's about 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And he,
Yeah, I didn't remember who reported it, but I remember Dad saying someone from the post office called it in.
Yeah, well, Albert Sheets was see every day there's a form that you take over to the Herald office. Right. And then would put a postmark on it, and then that would give it to them, give it to Anderson newspapers, and then they would they'd mark something, would bring it back or something like that.
They were real good family friends, Skeet and Marie. They were.
Oh yeah, Skeets, yeah.
Yeah, and then they had the.
Yeah, he lived on Indiana Avenue, way out.
Yeah.
Used to. That's when Indiana Avenue went way out.
And they both dress up as Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus at Christmas time and go around and entertain kids. And
my Barbara's cousin over at Muncie, and she had her oldest son Butch, and he was old enough to have a beard, and so he just like you've got now, he didn't shave for 1 year. The whole year. And then at Christmas time, and he plays Santa Claus all over Muncie.
Oh, that'd be great.
But boy, he had a nice big beard by that time.
So, how was your experience in Fairmount? You were the postmaster in Fairmount?
Yeah.
Okay.
For 8 months. Yeah.
How'd you like that job?
Oh, well, that was good. That was really good. Yeah. And the way I got that, I was good friends with the Bill something at Alexandria, and so he asked, and so he put my name in to Bosco there at the Indianapolis Sectional Center.
Right.
Yeah. Boswell. Anyhow, he was a postmaster. And I was route inspecting 3 or 4 Indianapolis substations, the carriers, different carrier each day, So I get in that one night, and they said, said call the mayor, and it's the post office, and so I called him. He says, we won't want you to come back tomorrow to wherever I was in Indianapolis.
Okay.
And he says, I've just appointed you postmaster of Fairmount. So at a sub, and so I went over there, and because I knew I did about every job in the post office. I knew all the forms and everything.
Sure.
And so I went over there. And I remember I got there, and I was about half a block from the Fairmount post office, and there was a big sign that says "Stop for red light." Well, it was for in case the fire trucks coming out, and so I'm stopping there in the middle of the street, and I was wondering, what am I doing here? Do I want to be the postmaster? So I went ahead, and then I took over. I went over there, and I counted all his money and all his stamps, and then I signed it all over to me from him, And so then we had people kept coming up there at the window, and they won their mail, and so finally I got all the carriers together, and I says, okay, no more mail goes up to the window. You deliver it, and nobody's going to pick their stuff up here over the window, over the counter. And so I posted a note there at the Fairmount Post Office, and so I says, no federal checks, state checks, county checks, city checks, no mail is handed over the window. Says it'll be delivered the next day to whatever that address is on there.
Okay.
But we will not be given any mail. Now, if you want your mail before 8 o'clock in the morning, then we've got a whole bunch of post office boxes here we haven't rented yet. You'll have your mail at 8 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to wait till the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
And so I had a big fast rule. It got back to, so then every about once a month I had to go over to Kokomo to a sectional center meeting, and because that's where the sectional center, Fairmount was in their sectional center.
Okay.
And they said, Brinduse, we're getting a lot of complaints from Fairmount that you won't give people their mail. I says, no, I said, I've got a notice up there. I said, I'm not going to take these carriers off their routes to hand deliver a letter when they can deliver at their house. I said, you're the ones, you want me to have these mail carriers to carry so much a minute, carry the routes, you don't want to have an overtime.
Yeah.
I said, now, that's my rule. I'm the postmaster over there. If you want to change that rule, then you tell me what to do. But don't hold me accountable for the carriers not getting their mail out on time.
Yeah.
And so they said, well, you're the postmaster. So that's what it was. And word got all around Fairmount that nobody get their mail. So I'd had this signed up for a couple of weeks, I said the first of the month, that's when it's going to start. Within a month, here comes the retired postmaster at Fairmount that I'd replaced.
Oh.
And he wanted his check. I said, so all the people in the post office, they knew what my rule was.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So I called Mike Ford. I said, bring his check to me. So he handed it to me. I reached over, and the guy was sitting. He was a former postmaster. I just took over from him, and so he was sitting there in his check, and he wanted me to hand him the letter. So I reached over and I got a book I had alphabetized, and so whatever his last name was, I looked under that, and then he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm writing here that you picked your mail up on such a date." I said, "Now, this service is for emergency only." I said, "Now the dictionary says emergency is something that doesn't repeat itself." I said, "This is the last time you'll be getting your mail this way." from now on, you get a post office box, and we'll put it in your post office box. And he was hot. And so like Ford had somebody out there on the route, and she was talking about this. Mr. Brinduse, he thinks he's big. He's coming over here and telling us how to run this office and everything.
Yeah.
And she says, I try to get my mail and they won't give it to me over there. It has to be delivered to my house, unless I get a post office box. And he says, what are you complaining about? He says, the former postmaster came here and he won't give him his mail either. He says, he treats everybody the same.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they was, and I was there a couple of months. I was there 8 months.
Yeah.
So I was there a couple of months, and some of them was eating their lunch and everything, and they have sandwich in there with mayonnaise in it, and it's warm and everything. I said, we need a refrigerator in here, and they said, yeah. I said, well, I think we ought to get one, and I said, wonder what people will say. I said, wait. I'm the postmaster. I make the rules. I'm going to buy a refrigerator, and now we're going to hook it up, and we're going to hook it up to their electricity.
Yeah.
From now on, there'll be a refrigerator. You can put your lunches in there, keep them cool.
Yeah.
And then I said, now I'm going to start buying cases of pop, and it'll be in there. If you want a pop, you take it, put 15 cents in there in a little
Yeah.
tub. And that way, you just tell me what kind of pop you want.
Yeah.
So I was making my rules there, and it worked out pretty good.
Yeah. Kind of nice to be the guy in charge sometimes.
Yeah. I got to thinking, well, I don't have to ask anybody permission
You're the postmaster.
to plug in a refrigerator. I said I'm the postmaster.
Now, you said you were in National Guard for a while, or
State Guard, Indiana State Guard.
Okay.
And then after when they start the federal government start taking the state guards and nationalize them to the National Guard.
Okay.
Then when it came to Indiana, then I was a major when they closed it out, and so the Indiana State Guard, the Indiana National Guard, they says, well, you want to transfer over to the National Guard? I said, yeah. And he said, well, we can't make you a major. Well, we'll give you your 5 stripes back.
Yeah.
I said, I don't think so. You're going to bust me from a major down to 5 stripes?
No.
So that was as far as that went.
Yeah, I could see where that wouldn't work out.
No.
Yeah. Were you involved in anything else in the community, scouting, or you were obviously involved in your church?
Well, yeah, the scouts, Troop 9 at First Baptist Church, they was one of the biggest in Anderson, and it's one of the oldest. The First Baptist Church is one of the oldest to have a scout troop. And so after the war, I went up to the scout office and I says, I noticed that I don't see any colored boys in any of these scout functions.
Yeah.
I don't see any colored scouts. He said, well, no, we don't have any. I said, well, First Baptist Church has had a scout troop as long as I can remember. And I says, I want to start up a troop in Anderson, Troop 9 from the First Baptist Church. But I will be putting colored boys in there, anybody that wants to. And he says, well, it's okay.
Yeah.
And so I ended up with about 20 scouts, and about half of them was white and half of them was black.
Okay.
And my son was one of the white ones. And I used to put him in my blazer, and we'd go out to scout camp, or we'd just go every place. We'd just load those kids in that thing. And so we was out to the scout camp after the season, and we was camping out there all night, and then I was going to take them back the next day. And there's about 15 of us out there. And so I looked over there, and these 2 colored boys was on the ground fighting. And so I walked over there, and I said, well, what's going on? He says, And I said, why are you down there? He said, well, he called me a nigger. And so I took 2 buckets of water, and I just drowned both of them.
Yeah.
I said, now here, take these empty buckets, go down to the pump house and fill them up and bring them back. And as long as, and if I'm 105 years old, you never use that word in my presence.
There you go.
I don't use it. I never used it ever. I never called anybody nigger in my life.
Yeah.
And I said, I will not tolerate that kind of language. Well, we can do it because we are niggers. I says, not in my troop. I said, you're out of this troop if that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And so I said, that's the rules.
Good for you.
And so, and years later, it was one of my scouts got beat. It was a doctor in Chicago,
Yeah.
and we had some real good boys.
Yeah.
And they there was a woman. Yeah, she came up to get her mail. I don't know did I tell you about this colored gal, and she had moved, and so I went over and got her mail. Next Saturday she came over. She wanted her mail again. And I said, no, this is the last time. There won't be any more. If you've got a change of address, that mail the carrier will put a new address on. It'll go to that new address. That's where you pick up your mail, wherever it's an address. So the next Saturday, knock on the door, and the woman, she wanted her mail. I says, no. I said, I told you last week I wouldn't give you any more. Well, I want my mail. And I says, no, you'll get it Monday or Tuesday whenever it's marked up.
Yeah.
And so about a half hour later, knock at the door. Here she is with 2 policemen, Anderson Police. And I said, yeah. And he says, I said, what's the problem here? And he says, well, this lady says you won't give her mail. I said, well, how does that affect the Anderson Police Department? What business is of yours?
Yeah.
I said, you don't have any jurisdiction here.
Yeah.
This is the post office. I said, the Anderson Police Department can come here and tell us how to run this thing. And they said, well, we want to talk to your supervisor. I says, I'm the. He says, well, who's the head supervisor? I said, that's me. And I says, no. I says, I've already told you that she doesn't get her mail, and she'll get it Monday or Tuesday wherever it's delivered. And so they went out the door. Yeah. The same lady had gone up there about 2 or 3 months before in the front office, and in the main lobby this time during the week, and she was arguing with Ray Faust, the other supervisor.
Yeah.
You know, and Ray was he was higher than me. Anyhow, so she laid down on the floor. She's screaming, kicking on there in the lobby. And so I don't know how that happened, but then after I told this lady in front of the police, I said, you think you can come in there and tell me how to run this post office? I said, I was born and raised at 1810 Locust Street. I know more colored people than you know. And I said, so from then on, she'd see me, she said, hello, Mr. Brinduse. I said, hello, Mr. So-and-so. So that was it. And I treated all of them the same.
Well, is there anything else about your life story you want to get on this tape? Anything we've left out?
Well, no, this wouldn't. They wouldn't be interested in when Barbara died. They wouldn't be interested in that. That was it was a terrible point in my life, you know. But that was the last time I prayed to die. Is when I met Ruth. Yeah. See, there's Barbara and I. This is 6 days before Barbara died. See that one there? Mm-hmm. That picture on the left.
Wow.
That was taken in Dallas, Texas, at an Army reunion, and on Saturday, and then she died. Saturday, and she died the following week. And then so then that picture there, I wanted to get a picture of Ruth and her husband Les, and she didn't have any. But so she had this one picture in the it was a brown tone, you know.
Right.
And so I took this to my artist that there's a gal in Bangkok, Thailand, did that one there, and so I took this up to this artist, and I gave it to my daughter-in-law, and I took that picture, and I told her, I said, I want Ruth having a blue dress, and it had Les, and I had Les just a little taller than that, so they didn't do what I wanted. But anyhow, then they give me that picture. So then I brought it home, and I went over to Gordy's Frames in Muncie, and I took that picture there over. I said, I want that same frame on this picture here, and the same designs and everything. So that's that was not a picture. I got Ruth's picture and I got a picture of Les. That's what I had, and then I put them together.
Yeah.
And so now then, Ruth's grandchildren, you know, they'd never seen that picture because that was a made-up picture.
Huh. Yeah.
So I've got both of them up there.
Probably.
Got a minute and a half.
Well, we always ask our veterans to say a few words for posterity. You got any words of wisdom or personal philosophy that's carried you through in life?
Well, the things that carried me through my life is Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that. Everything I've had in my life is from the time I was born.
Yeah.
Was the church, and that's all I've ever known.
That's about as good as it gets.
And I met Barbara through the church, and not once did we ever talk about having sex.
Yeah.
It didn't even come up.
Yeah.
We just knew that we were happy just to be able to hug each other and kiss each other. Yeah. And we knew that one of these days we'd be married. And in fact, if I remember right, we didn't even. All we did the first night was just hold each other.
That's pretty good.
But see, we knew we had the rest of our lives to get to know each other that way. But boy, how precious that was.
That's right.
It was just when I had Barbara come out to Fort Lewis, Washington, there was a woman. I met her. Anyhow, I went to the church there in Tacoma, in Olympia, Washington. I went to church, and
We're sorry, we're out of tape here.